Good afternoon to all our viewers. We will give it about 2 minutes more for anyone who wants to join in, and then we will start with our education on air. So please bear with us just for 2 minutes. Yes, once again, a good afternoon to all our viewers, and welcome to another segment of Education on Air. I'm Tilini from Entrepreneur.md, and as promised in his earlier webinar, Naren Aluraja, founder and CEO of Eco Marketing and Entrepreneur.md, is here to educate you on search engine optimization and Google Places for medical industry. If you have any questions for Naren, please press the Q&A bubble on the left side of your screen and post your questions. After Naren has completed his presentation, I will forward all questions to him. Hello, Naren. Welcome again to Education on Air. And it's over to you, Naren.
Hi, Tilini. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Thank you, Naren.
And thank you for the opportunity. And like Tilini mentioned, we had a presentation, I believe, a month or so ago. And this is a continuation of that. And today we'll be talking about specifically search engine optimization and the role of Google Places as it pertains to companies that sell to doctors. So could be a device manufacturer, could be a supplier, could be a service provider that's selling products and services to doctors. As you all know, the mission of entrepreneur.md is to connect doctors and those who serve doctors better. And one of the questions we get asked all the time is, what's the role of the internet and search engine optimization and internet marketing? So we decided to do a series, and this is a very key topic that's part of that series. If you have any questions, share it with Tilini, and then I would address them at the end. Before we get going, I want to spend a bit of time kind of summarizing what we touched on in the last presentation. The key point, the first key point is that people buy, selling doesn't work. What fundamentally that says is prior to the internet, the advertising or the marketing model was very simple. You interrupt people with ads, you reach, depending on your budget, thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, and then enough people at any given time would be interested in your product. And I think the theory went something like 3%. So as long as you play the numbers game and you reached enough people, that 3% who are looking for your product or service at this given time, some of them would end up buying, and that paid for your advertising costs. Now, internet changed all that because for the very first time, it allowed people the ability to research or learn about anything they want, whether it's finding out more about a dentist they're looking at, or whether it's, if you're a doctor and you're looking to buy an equipment, whether it's going to the website and learning about the product, watching videos, reading reviews. So in today's world, the first key point I want to mention is that you as a marketer of a product or service need to think in terms of how do I help people buy, and stop trying to sell to them, because selling really doesn't work in today's world. The second key thing we touched on was what was called zero moment of truth. And it's the idea that prior to the internet, the first moment of truth is the very first time somebody heard about your brand, typically an ad, a billboard or a TV ad or a newspaper ad. And then the next moment of truth is their first interaction with the business, maybe a phone call, maybe a face-to-face meeting. And then they make the purchase, and then they have another moment of truth. That's when they start experiencing the product. So because they didn't have this thing called the zero moment of truth, which is the consumer's ability or the doctor's ability to do research, did not exist before the internet, they never had this concept of, the zero moment of truth. What zero moment of truth is, in today's world, before they start hearing about you from an ad, they start researching. Let's say I'm looking to buy intraoral cameras. Let's say I'm a dentist. Now I might start researching about intraoral cameras. That's the zero moment of truth. So all the things I learn in that process will influence which manufacturers I'm looking at and who I'm seriously considering and so forth. So one of the key pieces of marketing in today's world is to pay attention to that zero moment of truth, that moment where people are researching and learning about a product or service, and then making sure you as a company is the one that they keep hearing about, and obviously in a way that's consistent with your brand and your positioning in the marketplace. We kind of had an introduction to search engine optimization, and today we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. We also talked about mobile and how mobile had changed things. For example, before 2007, mobile phones were not really smart computers. They were just phones. People used it to make phone calls. That's it. Today, mobile phone is used more than computers by most people because it is a computer. It has everything that a computer can do. It has apps built in. It has access to the internet. It has a touchscreen interface. It's very easy to use, and it's very powerful. So as more and more people use their mobile phone as their primary computing device, it shifts behavior, right? Because it's a small screen. So the way people would behave in front of a big screen sitting down is different from how they would behave in front of a small screen in their pocket. So, as a marketer, you need to be aware of that. You need to learn how to leverage that. So we'll touch on some of that in today's meeting, but obviously we'll get into more of that in our subsequent presentations. We also touched on social media. Again, we have a subsequent presentation. We'll get into more details around that. And as you know, not everything fits everybody, right? So as a person in the medical industry, does it fit? How could you use it? These are the questions we'll be answering. We talked about automated marketing, or the idea that you can now, for the very first time, use technology to reach not just one person at a time, but hopefully hundreds or thousands, and still personalize it depending on people's interests. So if somebody is only interested in a certain category of products, don't annoy them by talking about something else that they're not interested in. If somebody is very serious about buying a product, you might want to show them things like what other people had to say and how other people in their shoes benefited from the product. So you can really personalize and customize marketing through automated marketing. So we'll get into that in one of our subsequent presentations. We talked about the importance of content, and again, we'll spend more time on that, because content is at the heart of all types of marketing today, whether it's content through your social media, whether it's content through your emails or your automated marketing tools, or whether it's content for your website and search engine optimization. We'll get a lot more into depth in one of my upcoming presentations around analytics. The most important point that I want you to remember, in every one of my presentations is internet marketing is all about helping your market buy, not about pushing people things they don't need or interrupting people with ads. It's about being at the right place at the right time, helping them buy, behind the scenes, helping them like your product, learn about your product, choose your product. That's really what marketing is all about. I'm sure you may have already heard this, that in 2007, people used Google approximately 1 billion times a day. Today, they use Google approximately 6 billion times a day. What changed? We don't have 6 times more people using the internet today versus in 2007. It's just that, technology has become more powerful. Technology has become more ubiquitous because everybody's carrying a computer in their pockets, 24 hours a day. So in that sense, people are using tools like Google to do more and more research. Now from everything from finding out who the prime minister of a country is to, helping your kid with her homework to, learning about a restaurant that they're thinking about having lunch at. For everything you want to ever know, you can use Google, you can use the internet. So that really has some profound implications, for marketers, because the old ways of, interruptive marketing or push marketing doesn't really work. So you really need to think about, in this new world, in this new way, how people do things. How do you, enhance or evolve your techniques and your methodologies to get the most out of, a mobile first, cloud first world that we live in. Let's talk about local search and SEO. So what is SEO? SEO stands for, as all of you know, search engine optimization. The idea that when people are doing research, you show up for the products and services that you offer. So, for example, if I'm looking for molar tooth extraction, and you have a product that helps with that, when people are Googling that keyword, you need to show up. So that's really what SEO is. Now, there are 3 new trends that are new to SEO and search marketing that has happened over the last couple of years that I want to touch on, because I believe that these trends are so critical that if you're not aware of it and if you don't know how to get the most out of it, it might end up affecting your business. The first one is location and NAP. NAP, actually there's a typo, it shouldn't be map, it should be NAP. NAP fundamentally means name, address, phone number. So, so for example, as reviews are playing more and more of an important role in how people make decisions, most companies that are, that have the biggest market share when it comes to search, Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo, and so forth, are giving more and more importance to reviews. So there are many sites where people can review you, right? So we're from Google itself with Google reviews. So when all of these sites have information about your business, information about your products and services, the fact that the name of the business, the address of the business, and the phone number and other critical information match up across all these sites becomes really important. So I'm noticing in some of my some examples, clients getting 100 people coming through tools like Google Maps, sometimes even thousands of people. So you can really increase your business by paying attention to this. Also, because it's so important, like I alluded to earlier, it's also influencing search results. So location and NAP, name, address, phone number information across all these profiles where you have reviews is impacting, search results. Reviews. Now, this is something I always get asked about, is that how do I manage my reputation? What do I do when somebody badmouths me and it's not true? The way I look at reviews is it's kind of like healthy lifestyle and healthy eating. You might have some bad days, you might eat unhealthy food, you might not exercise on certain days. It's not the end of the world as long as you get back onto it. So as long as you realize the importance of your online reputation and the role that reviews play in people either choosing you or not choosing you, and you take a proactive approach to this, things will always work out. So you can't get upset about every bad review, every bad story. You need to focus on overall what's the perception. Overall, do these review sites say good things about you or bad things? So, so this is something that we really believe in, and that's why entrepreneur.md, for example, allows companies to add their profiles and their information, and then allows them to get their doctor clients to write positive and encouraging reviews about the company. So if you have clients, definitely get them to give you reviews and make sure it's posted on sites like entrepreneur.md, because the more reviews you have that say great things that show up on Google search results, the more it's going to help people choose you, as opposed to saying, no, I'm not interested in this company because everybody online thinks they're not that great. Personalized search. This is another big trend. See, before 2007, computers were kind of dumb. So when you typed in a search, typically everybody got the exact same result. Now that's not the case. Now results vary based on 3 factors. Number 1 is the device. So Google realizes that somebody who's using a small screen like an iPhone may not want to see the exact same information they would enjoy on a big screen like a computer screen. For example, on an iPhone, you can't read long articles because it's a small screen, but you can see pictures, you can watch videos, it's easy to read reviews because those are typically short. So the results will change depending on the device the user is using. You have to be aware of that. Second thing that influences search results is your search history. Up until 2 to 3 years ago, Google kind of had different products with different logins and so forth. But now they have unified all their logins. So everybody who ever uses a Google service, whether it's Google Calendar or Google Maps or Picasso for photo albums, you name it, is logged in through a Google account. Because you are logged in, Google can now track what you did yesterday, what you did 3 hours ago. So for example, if you went to a website that sells a particular type of a device for dermatologists, Google knows that. The next time, you research something similar, Google might still show that result of that website you visited because Google knows that, you have already been to this website. So results are getting personalized based on your search history. The third thing that influences search results is location. So before, GPS became popular and GPS became part of every mobile device, by default, Google didn't know where you were located. So a lot of times nowadays, people don't even have to type in their location. Google will automatically rearrange the results based on your location. So like the distance between you and that business will influence search results. So location, search history, your personalized search history, and the type of device you are using will mean that the results person A sees will be different from person B. And that's why in Google search results, Google Analytics, for example, Google will say what's your average ranking for a particular keyword across all their products, across all their services. Right? So those are things you need to pay attention to. So if you're a small business or even a medium business, what should you want? What should you expect from internet marketing? Is internet marketing even right for you? So these are some of the questions that I get asked all the time. So assuming you have made a commitment to internet marketing, and we'll get to whether it's right for you or not in a bit. Let's assume that you have made that commitment and you want, to be relevant, in the web-centric world that we live in. The first thing is you need to show up, meaning when people are researching the type of products you offer or the type of services you offer, you want to be the one that they keep seeing again and again and again. Because if you don't show up, as far as they're concerned, you don't exist. So step one is, show up for the game on time, because if you don't show up, you forfeit the game. So that's really, really important. The second thing is, okay, what are you going to show up for? So, we know that people are using tools like Google approximately 6 billion times a day. So how do people use tools like Google? So they use keywords. They might speak into their Siri on their iPhone, or they might, talk to, OK Google, or they might just type it in. But at the end of the day, it's keywords. Like I might say I'm interested in, tooth extraction or a laser device that's good for fat melting. Whatever they're typing in are called keywords. So how many keywords are you showing up for? Because, they could type in hundreds of different keywords even for one product. Somebody might be interested in before and after pictures from that device. Other person might be interested in reviews. So whatever they're interested in helping them make that purchase decision, they're going to type it in. So your goal is to show up for as many relevant keywords as possible and hopefully show up near the top. Because studies show that 95% of the people never go to page 2. So if you're not in the top 10, meaning you're not in page 1, you're not even in the game, right? So this is an example of one of our clients called Physics Forceps. They're ranking for 524 keywords. Out of that 524 keywords, they're on page 1 for, just in Google alone, 210, they're in the top 3 spots. And again, studies show that 70% of the people will click on one of the top 3 results. And how do all these numbers happen? How do they show up for 524 keywords, especially on page 1? How do they show up for 210 keywords in the top 3 spots? We'll get into the fundamentals of SEO. One of the key things is backlinks. So getting high quality, good backlinks pointing back to you is key. So this particular website, for example, has 8,028 backlinks. All of these rankings and all of these results turn into visitors. So they are getting around 5,300 visitors a month. They were seen a total of 17,000 times a month, which is different from the unique visitors. Some of those people don't even have to go to websites anymore, because a lot of times Google will give the phone number. Google will give reviews right off of Google itself. So you're also noticing a lot of people are just learning about them without even having to go to the website. So these are some of the key things you should pay attention to. Let me kind of spend a minute showing you a typical report. So the keys to marketing is you have to put in a certain amount of hours every month. So this particular client who's in the dental space, we put in around 50 hours a month. So in the last month we put in 52 hours. It's entered here, and it's important that you know that, because a lot of companies don't actually do the work. They'll sign you up, they'll build your website, and then after that they do nothing. So when they do nothing, typically you're not going to rank for more and more keywords, definitely not for 500 keywords. So it's really important for you to have them accountable and have them show you how many hours they're investing on your behalf. And then you will find out where those hours are going. So we, for example, will break down those hours. And we have teams, so different teams spend a different amount of hours, and it's explained here exactly what those teams do by clicking on this link called "How does this help me?" We also track, rankings. So you and I don't need to, guess this. You can use a tool like Google Analytics, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. And you can find out how many keywords they're ranking for in the first page, in the top 3 spots, and all of that. Also using Google Analytics, you can find out that 4,500 visitors went to their website in 1 month, the month of May. And they looked at a total of 15,000 pages. They filled out 19 contact forms, and 1,300 people saw them without even having to go to the website. And all the total numbers are tracked. So 16,000 people were exposed to this business online in the month of May, and 18,000 in the month of April. So we try to make sure that these are all tracked. Another thing that you should pay attention to is, new visitor percentage. So out of the, 5,000 people who went to the website, 70% are brand new people, meaning they haven't visited the website before. Because Google uses tool technologies like cookies and so forth, they can track whether the person has already been to the website. So you have to make sure your strategy is driving new people. So if every month you're getting 3,000, 4,000 new people learning about your business, typically that's going to be a healthy business. You're going to see orders and numbers consistent, as opposed to you're not driving new business. Another thing that's interesting is tablets and mobile devices are growing in terms of popularity. So for example, at this given time, 3,000 people visited this client's website through desktops and laptops, but 1,575, almost half of that, came through mobile devices like iPhone and tablets like iPad. And another thing that you need to pay attention to is how long are they spending on your website. Typically, engaged websites will at least have more than a minute. Now in this case, this particular website has 3 minutes and 12 seconds per user. So it's pretty decent. So they're spending a lot of time looking at various things on the website. So that means they're engaged, they're serious, and more than likely some of them will end up making purchase decisions. Also look at the keywords. So for example, there are so many keywords, and the first column and the second column here tells you how many people saw that, typed in that keyword. And the third column tells you what's your average position across all of Google's devices and products. So for example, I'll pick a keyword here. So they ended up selling another product called WAM-Key. It's not their product, they are a reseller of that. So 400 people typed in WAM-Key, and on average, they're ranking #1 across all of Google's products and services for that particular keyword. Tooth 17 extraction, so a lot of dentists look for that particular keyword. 35 people looked for it, and again they're #1. So you need to pay attention to the the keywords you're ranking for, in addition to the number of keywords. Molar extraction, 900 dentists were looking for that. Again, they're #1. WAM-Key crown remover, 250 people were looking for that. Again, they're #1. So it's really important for you to literally look at all the keywords and see what's going on. And what's your rankings, and then work with your marketing company to influence them, so that you can tell them, I need you to focus on these keywords more, because it's what I want to focus on, and so forth. And when you go down the monthly report that we typically produce for our clients, another key metric that we like to track is, other than showing all the 500 plus keywords, is 1 second, it goes on and on and on. 1 second. Is how many people are coming from things like Facebook, from Google Places, from Twitter, Also look at links, right? Because the reason they're ranking for 500 keywords is because they have 7,000 plus links. And also target specific, product lines or procedures, because you want not only to rank for the major keyword like your business name and so forth, but also for the kind of category of products you have. So by increasing the number of links you have to the different sections of your website, you can now increase your chances of ranking for those pages in those sections or in those categories. So these are things that you need to have a team working on. So when we put in the 55 hours, some of the hours would go into things like, link building and managing those links and removing the bad links and so forth. I'm going to spend some time, going through the basics of SEO and then show you more what you should do and what you should pay attention to. So for example, here are some of the keywords that physics forceps was ranking for, and it's important for you to, like I said, pay attention to it. Also, before I forget, let me show you Google Analytics. So this is the Google Analytics, and you should have access to it, and you should log into it, at least, weekly. So for example, on a particular day, this client got 70 visitors. Another day, on a Monday, they got 193 visitors. On a Tuesday, they got 209 visitors. So Google will literally show you exactly what's happening day by day. It will show you how many sessions you had. Session meaning like when somebody comes to your website and spends some time on it, that's a session. Number of users means unique people who came to your website. So 3,775 people came to the website in a 30-day period, and out of those, some of those people came back. So they had a total of 4,682 sessions. It will tell you the average session duration, 2 minutes and 53 seconds. It will tell you how many number of pages they looked at on average, total number of pages they looked at, where they are coming from. So US 2,697, UK 229, because most companies target a global market. So we might have clients from all over the world. So you know which clients and which countries are driving your business. All the keywords, the 500 plus keywords that I was talking about, even those gets listed here. So if you go to the keyword section of Google Analytics, you will know what those keywords are. For example, dental forceps, 700 people typed that keyword in the last 30 days. WAM keys, 600 people typed that keyword in. So you know what are the most popular keywords. So all the 766 keywords is listed here. So you can sort them by how popular the keywords are or by what's your average position. So for example, dental forceps, the average position is 5.2. 5. For physics forceps, it's 1.0. So depending on the different keywords, their position might change. Another thing I would pay attention to is devices. And a lot of these stats that, for example, for our clients, we grab it from analytics, but then we share it, through their monthly report. If you don't have a detailed monthly report, you should log in and figure this out. So in that 1 month period, 599 people only used an iPhone to visit that website. So that's really, really important, because if your site is not optimized for an iPhone, there's a technology called responsive mobile website technology. Now you're not going to get maximum results from a small screen. So you need to pay attention to what devices they're using. So we, for example, try to make sure that the websites we develop work really well, on any device. So that's why we use the mobile responsive technology, when we develop those websites. Let me go back to the presentation. Okay, where it show up for? So we talked about various devices, and I showed you Google Analytics and how you can see what devices people are coming in from. So you want to show up for various keywords, various devices, and in your area. Now your area could be a city, could be a state, could be the entire country. Obviously showing up in the entire country is harder than showing up in a state or a city. So this is why, one of the questions you need to figure out is SEO right for you? Like you might say, I want to show up in the entire world, but if there are so many competitors, it might be impossible unless you have a massive budget. So one of the things you need to figure out is, your goals, your expectations, and your budget, do they align? If they don't waste your money doing something that's not going to get you anywhere. So how do you know you're showing up? I looked at Google Analytics. So that's one way for you to know that you're showing up and what's your average position. And make sure that the message is correct. So you need to, pay attention. So when you are showing up, see what people see. Go to the page they go to, read up what's on the page. See if that's what you want people to see. A lot of clients I notice, they don't pay attention to the details, and a lot of times they might get a lot of traffic, but if the content is not compelling enough, it doesn't convert. So one of the things we look at is, look at conversion ratios, look at, bounce rates, various factors. So when we notice things that are kind of out of whack, then we would talk to the client and figure out how do we bring it back in line, based on our experience. So if you're getting a lot of people going to your website or a particular page, but they're not converting into sales, then we need to figure out why. Is it the fact that there's not enough testimonials? Is it that the site is so hard to use? It's, whatever the reason is, we need to figure it out and fix it. Otherwise, what's the point of getting a lot of people to the site? Where to show up, in your target market. So one of the questions I always get asked is SEO right for me? Should I even bother? I really think you need to have somebody review this with you. So for example, you need to discuss with a team or a marketing firm that you trust, your goals, and you have to tell them this is what I'm expecting and this is kind of my budget, and ask them for their opinion whether they can be accomplished and if the ROI is there. Like for example, let's say you are selling a device that's for $60,000 and you're okay to spend $10,000 to make that $60,000. Now you need to do the numbers to make sure that the amount of traffic you're going to drive and the amount of calls you're going to get and eventually the number of sales you're going to get is going to give you the the ROI you are looking for. Because if it's not, don't waste your money and just do it for the sake of doing it. For example, let's say you're selling paper towels, or you're selling some type of a cheap supply that maybe 1,000 other companies are also selling. Now you might not be able to do SEO for that kind of a product because the numbers won't add up. Because if you're only going to make a few cents on the dollar, a few cents out of $30 or $50, and the competition is so stiff because everybody and their brother is competing with you from Amazon.com to a startup, then unless you have, you might find that you can't make money using SEO. So in those cases, don't waste your money and say, don't do it. One of the things that we are offering to people who attend this webinar, if they want to, is free digital marketing strategy review. So looking at how well, like looking at talking to them about their goals and giving them some honest feedback on what they should do and if this is right for them and so forth. So if you're interested, you can let us know and we can go through and let you know what we think can be done and what needs to be done and so forth. So another thing that's new is authorship tag. A lot of times now with search results, you see pictures of people, names of people. So building brands is important. So by associating certain logo or a picture consistently with all search results on Google, now you are reinforcing that brand. Now there are technical methodologies for doing this. So for example, there's a tag called authorship tag. So using that tag, you can tell Google, here is the author of this page, or here is the logo of the business for this page, and now show that logo or show the picture of the owner or whoever that person is next to every search result. Now, if you have technical people who know how to do this, you can do this consistently and get a lot of benefit out of it. Google reviews, out of all the review sites, I do believe Google reviews are the best because it has the most credibility and it's shown in so many devices and so many products. So you get the most exposure and bang for the buck. Google is built by programmers. The guys who started, they're both dropouts of PhD programs at Stanford, and they started programming when they were like young kids. So if you're a programmer or if you have teams of programmers in your marketing team, it would really help. And we, for example, out of the 150 people we have in our company, we have around 11 or 12 webmasters. These are all people with very strong knowledge of HTML, CSS, and PHP and various web technologies. We have around 10 people in our software development team. So they understand things like rich snippets and structured data. Make sure your company has, or your marketing company has, a large team of experts who understand the technical side of this, because if they do, they can do a lot of things that the average, person or average, marketer will be able to do. So showing up, authorship tag is through structured data. Getting reviews to show up next to pages, it's through structured data. Is SEO right for you? Like I touched on earlier, it's not for everybody. So you need to really understand your product, your competition, and then what it's going to take to beat the competition. Because as you know, if you're not on page one, especially in the top 5 results of page one, there's no point competing if you can't get there. So really look at your goals and your objectives, and how much time and money it's going to take to get to where you want to get to. And if the amount of time and money it's going to take is not worth it, you don't do it. So really spend the time up front to do the research. And I see a lot of clients, especially in the medical industry space, never finding the right partner, the right company to work with, and they end up wasting a lot of money. So what are the SEO basics? And I'm going to kind of go through that, in a bit of detail. At a high level, is the site set up properly? And I'm going to explain what that means. Content, having 100% original content, external SEO. But I'm going to get into the details in a bit. So here is our services page. This is kind of what we do for our clients. We do around 30 things for our clients on a monthly basis. So when we launch a client website, we start with a custom design website. Why do we do it? Because Google doesn't like to send people to template websites that are copy and paste of something else already that's there. Because in Google's opinion, if they do that, people don't like those websites and they leave those websites, which means it's a negative mark for Google. So Google is very much into original designs, original content, and so forth. So we start by auditing the old website, doing the keyword research, doing a custom design to fit the brand. Then we have writers who write articles, original articles, and if you already have writers in your team, or if you've got a lot of good original articles, you can give that to us, and we can use that in setting up the site. I already touched on the fact that mobile websites are very different from desktop websites because the screen size is different. And there are so many different types of mobile devices. Like I was showing you on Google Analytics, you can find out exactly how many devices are being used and how popular the different devices are. And using technology called responsive mobile website technology, you can optimize it to look awesome on different devices. So these are things we do in the first 2 to 3 months, and we spend approximately 200 plus hours doing it. And the reason we do it is like the foundation. If your foundation sucks, everything else is going to suck. So no point spending money without getting the foundation right. And once you have a great foundation, then you need to do all of these things, around 25 to 30 things on a monthly basis, to keep growing your traffic and your business and your phone calls from internet marketing. So under search engine optimization, which is 80% of where most of our clients get most of their money from, we focus on external SEO and new content. So we put in around 70% of our hours into this. So under external SEO, it's about building links from other websites, that Google likes, removing the bad links. Google has tools like the Webmaster Tool. So using those tools, you can remove bad links. There are some techniques called social media bookmarking. So there are sites like StumbleUpon and so forth that Google likes, dig, StumbleUpon, and so forth. So leveraging those sites to create high quality links. External blogs that are linking back to you also will help you. We already touched on the importance of NAP. Meaning name, address, phone number, consistency across all your profiles where you're reviewed, and managing all that. So in some cases, for some of our clients, we might be managing 10 websites with reviews. And as time goes along, that number grows, and that really helps also with SEO in addition to driving traffic on its own. We touched on authorship tag and structured data. That's where the picture of the business, the logo of the business, or the picture of somebody in the business shows up consistently in Google search results. We also talked about reviews showing up with the 5 stars next to your name. So when somebody's Googling your business name, if Google reviews are showing up with 5 stars, that's a huge vote of confidence in the eyes of the doctor who's thinking about you, because now they know a third party had collected a lot of reviews and they think your reviews are awesome. Facebook marketing, so for the client Physics Forceps, this is their website. They have around 300 pages, that we have built over time. they have a social media page, so people like 1,400 people like them on their Facebook page. So managing that Facebook page and getting more and more people to like it. So these are things we take care of. A lot of times you may have to design a custom banner or a custom graphic. We have custom graphic designers. So whether you do it or whether you get somebody else to do it, make sure that the companies have those capabilities to do those things properly. Twitter, is not as important, but it is something that you should not ignore, because whatever you do with Facebook, you can easily copy and paste it on Twitter. Infographics and brochures are really, really important, and because we are graphic designers, we use them. I'm sure most of you are aware of what an infographic is. Infographic is very powerful because it's very easy for people. They don't have to read for 10 minutes to get something. They can see an infographic, and within 10 seconds, they get the point. So those types of things are very effective in today's day and age, where people don't, have a lot of time to read and, understand things. Review sites, really important. We talked about the big three, the Google Places, the Yahoo Local, and the Bing Local. Have teams taking care of that. And then add to it. So add other sites that are relevant and useful. We, for example, believe in using the best web hosting companies out there, because if your website host gets hacked, that's going to hurt your SEO and it's going to hurt your reputation. Because let's say it gets hacked and people steal credit cards using your website, now you get blacklisted, and that's a big problem. So make sure, like in our case, we have a dedicated team of 3 people just monitoring our servers. We use the best hosting companies out there, the most expensive, like Rackspace, for example, might charge you $3,000 that somebody else might charge you, $600 for, just because their stuff is amazingly, awesome in terms of reliability and, security and so forth. But still have your own webmasters, own tech support team to manage those servers. Site is not a one-time thing. That's a big misconception I see. I think a site is an evolving, breathing, and growing thing. So you have to keep investing in it. Make sure you're looking at your monthly report, whether it's through Google Analytics or a custom report. Make sure you have plans and goals. So set 6-month plans and then monitor it quarterly. In our case, we talk to our clients on a weekly basis through email, and then on a quarterly basis we have a review meeting with our marketing coach to understand, how are we against the 6-month plan? Where do we stand? What do we need to work on? What are the low-hanging fruits? Because marketing is one of those things, just like a business with a business plan, working on the business plan, you need to have a marketing plan and you need to work on it. So those are kind of, the things that, I would strongly recommend that you have somebody take care of if you believe that internet marketing is right for you and it's something that you want to invest in. And that's why I think, before you get started, you need to have somebody give you a plan that they think you can execute. See if that plan is, worthwhile for you, if you think that the ROI is there for you. So don't waste your money and time without really thinking things through. Have somebody really do that evaluation for you, and we would do that at no cost for anybody who attends this webinar if they so requested. External SEO, we touched on that. So link building and social bookmarking and nav consistency and all those things, you need to have people working on it day in and day out, week in and week out, because the better you are with external SEO, the better you are with original content, the better your website is set up, the more keywords you're going to rank for, the more visitors you're going to find you, and the more calls you're going to get, and the more business you're going to get. So these are things you need to work on a weekly, monthly basis to keep improving results, keep competing with the client, with others who realize, internet marketing is very powerful and want to get into the same thing. We typically spend minimum 35 hours a month, depending on your goals. It could be 100 hours a month. So, really come up with a plan that makes sense for your business. Make sure the hours are there, not just upfront, but on a monthly basis, and make sure that you're monitoring it through the reports, through, what the company is giving you. We already touched on these points. Have a plan, have goals, and then make sure it's working for you by looking at the numbers, looking at what your rankings are, looking at your visitor count. So what are the next set of presentations that I'll be doing? I'll be talking about branding next. Here we'll talk about how do you discover, how do you communicate, and how do you live your brand. we'll spend around 30 to 45 minutes, and I'll give you a lot of examples and how you can do these things. Branding is really powerful because when you go to sell your business, a lot of times a lot of value comes from a very powerful brand. I'm sure you've heard of the fact that Coca-Cola's brand is worth billions of dollars. So when they go to sell their business, the brand has value, right? Another thing we'll talk about is reputation management and social media. Now, we touched on it today, but we get into more details. How do you get positive reviews? How do you manage your reputation on an ongoing basis across different platforms? What are the platforms you should pay attention to? We'll talk about social media. What's the role of Facebook? And we'll get into some examples and some best practices. How do you use newsletters, if at all? How do you use automated marketing? That will be in the third presentation I'll be doing. We'll talk about content marketing and analytics also in that presentation. So there are 3 more presentations to come, each 30 to 45 minutes, in-depth tools and techniques on how you can leverage all these different things to grow your business online. Any questions or answers?
Yes, Naren. Thank you, Naren. And we will continue our discussion segment. I have some few questions, and let me give them to you. Yes, the first question is best practices for effective, successful SEOs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think number 1 is keep adding original content to your website on an ongoing basis. Make sure that content has at least 350 words. So in our case, because we have a team behind this, for our clients, we add 2 to 6, sometimes even 10 articles a month. And you need to do this like clockwork. The more articles, the more original content you keep adding, the better off you'll be. Obviously, these articles have to be targeted towards the right keywords, so it has to be linked to a keyword strategy. Second best practice is external SEO. Like I was saying, 70% of the hours we invest for clients goes into external SEO. So that's link building, social media, bookmarking, removing bad links, external blogs. There are various techniques. We have around 30 people just dedicated to external SEO, meaning all these types of links that tell Google how popular or effective you are, as a product, as a website. And third is, build the site right. I have seen so many people making a lot of mistakes when they launch the site. They use duplicate content. They use tools like WordPress that are not very flexible. They don't use original designs. They copy and paste somebody else's work, and then for years and years they pay the price. So make sure upfront, you do it right. In our case, a lot of times we don't even charge for the upfront work just because we realize how critical it is. Because if you don't get the upfront work done properly, then everything else you do after the fact is a waste of time and money. So those are the 3 best practices I would recommend.
Okay, let's move on to the second question. I heard Google started punishing people for bad links. Can you tell me more about it?
Absolutely. So, there are so many people who always try to find a way to cheat Google, but as you know, Google is worth $300 billion for a reason. They're very good at sniffing these people who try to trick Google, and they punish them, obviously. So one of the ways people trick Google is by getting, links from link farms and, paid links and so forth. So Google always is on the lookout for finding out bad links. So if, let's say, a site is known for giving people links when they pay them money, now Google will punish anybody who has a link from that type of a site. But Google will give you tools like the Google Webmaster Tool to tell you which links are bad. So if you have a dedicated team, they can monitor this on a weekly, monthly basis and remove those links. Tell Google to ignore those links in some cases, and in some cases actually remove them. So as part of our link building team, that's one of the things we focus on. We just make sure that every month we are reviewing those links against Google's Webmaster Tools to see what are the bad links this month that we need to get rid of. So absolutely, you're right. That's something that you have to pay attention to. If you don't, without you realizing it, you could get penalized. I'll tell you a story. This is a true story. One of our clients went from $0 to $1 million, business in a span of 5 years just using digital marketing. But all of a sudden, we started noticing his rankings were dropping. And when we did some research, we realized that somebody else has copied his website wholesale. And Google punished both the person copied and the person who's our client. So then we had to let Google know about this and file a DMCA violation report and contact the person who has done this, and he blamed it on his web company, and then he got rid of it, obviously. So these are things you need to pay attention to, because if you don't, you will get punished.
Fine, let's move on to our third question. What is average search rank? I see this in my Google Analytics. Can you explain further?
Absolutely, and that's a thing that I noticed with clients. A lot of clients, didn't realize the world had changed since the iPhone and since, the multi-device world that we live in. Like I was saying to before, people use Google 6 billion times today versus 1 billion times in 2007. What that means is questions are more. Also, like I alluded to before, results change, depending on search history of the particular person, depending on the device they are using, and depending on their location. So Google knows for the exact same search term, 5 different people will get 5 different results, meaning you might show up number 1 for one person, number 3 for somebody else, and number 4 for somebody else, based on device and location and search history. Now Google can tell you across all these people what's your average position. So when you look at Google Analytics, for example, you will see for each keyword you're ranking for what's your average position for that keyword.
And we'll move on to the fourth question. How important are reviews? Do they influence purchase decisions?
Yeah, the studies that I have looked at say that 9 out of 10 people, whether it's a doctor or a consumer, look at reviews. And they decide, because the theory is that, in the old days, you could talk to your friends and get their feedback about a particular product or service, but now everybody's busy. So in 2 seconds, you can quickly learn what the other people think by typing in the product name and reading those reviews. So I do believe that based on all the studies I have looked at, that 90% of the people will look at reviews. So if you want to improve your conversion rate, and if you want to maximize your your marketing funnel, I really do think you need to focus on reviews. Use our free service on entrepreneur.md to get reviews. Use various other tools that you can leverage to get positive reviews, and make sure these are good original reviews from doctors.
Okay, we have 2 more questions, and let me move on to the 5th question. I heard people don't leave voicemails or fill contact forms these days. Is that true? What do you notice?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Yes, absolutely, that is true. Like, for example, we do call tracking. So we use a virtual number to see how many calls are coming in, the duration of the call, and so forth, and then track it back to what marketing is making the most difference. So, for example, as part of call tracking, a lot of our clients have been able to save money on marketing that didn't work for them. So they used to advertise on a magazine, and then all of a sudden they realized, once they put in call tracking, the magazine only is giving them 2 leads, costing, where each lead costs them $2,000, let's say, as an example. So as part of call tracking, we can listen to calls, right? And one of the things we are noticing is if the phone is not answered during business hours, 95% of the people hang up. They don't leave voicemails. And I think that's just a trend that has grown over the last few years, because Google and the other companies like Apple have made things so easy for people. If they don't get somebody answering or answering the phone in seconds, they hang up. When they hear the voicemail, they hang up. So, I think that's one of the key takeaways that I've seen. I've seen clients being able to boost their sales by 30% just by answering the phone calls during working hours 100% of the time. So I really think that's important. And even contact forms, right? I mean, in the old days, people would fill out a contact form and wait for somebody to call back. Now they just already on a mobile device. They just press that phone number thing on their mobile device, and they don't even have to dial the phone number, and it's ringing right away. So most people are doing that instead of filling out contact forms, because it's painful to fill out a contact form on a small device. So again, it comes back to people not being patient, not being willing to wait. So I do also see less and less people using contact forms, and more people just pressing their number and calling, whether through the computer or the mobile device.
Okay, we have one more question. I have a medical supplies business. Is SEO right for me?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on this before. I think you need to look at how much can you spend for each sale and what the competition is. And then obviously you need to consult with somebody as to, what do you need to invest over how long of a period to achieve the results. So if the results you're going to achieve doesn't pay for is more than your marketing budget or your ability to spend on marketing, then don't waste your money going after that, because then you'll be losing money for every client you acquire. So I do think, as a rule of thumb, SEO and works really well for companies with high margins or high volume. So if you're selling a $30,000 device or a $5,000 device, more than likely SEO probably will work for you, because you have a large priced item, and then the amount of time and money you have to spend beating everybody else out would be less than the amount of money you get from the increased sales. But if you're only making pennies on the dollar, then I'm not really sure if SEO is right for you. But the digital marketing strategy review, which is what I'll talk about in my next slide, a $500 value, is something where we can really explore that question and really give you a specific answer. You need to do that before you start on an online marketing campaign. And also, as part of that, we will recommend a marketing plan, whether it involves social media, whether it involves automated marketing. So we would give you a comprehensive plan that we think is best based on all of our experience. So make sure you have a plan before you jump in and do this. Make sure you have clear expectations, and make sure that you've thought things through.
Okay, thank you, Naren. And thank you very much for the time spent with us. But sadly, we have to say goodbye to you. And thank you for all joining on the EOA with us. We will be sending this video so you can share it with your friends. And we will keep you informed of the next webinar within a few weeks. And of course, as Naren said, the next webinar is about branding and discovering communication and living your brand. And any words to add in, Naren?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my final thoughts is, the key point that I mentioned in my second slide, which is your job as a company, as a marketer, is to help people buy, not to sell to them, because the old ways of doing things are not effective anymore, especially in a world where the power is with the buyer, where they can call the shots, they can do the research, they can really get to the truth really fast. So build a good product, make sure your clients love it, and then make sure people can find you. Make sure when they find you, your reputation is solid because you have a reputation management plan. Make sure that you are consistent with your marketing, whether it's automated marketing, whether it's the SEO. Don't just do it one time and then let it go. You have to make this a core part of your business. So, work on it. And if you do, I mean, in my case, we built a business from the ground up without any investment, all thanks to internet marketing. So I really think internet marketing can help you if you think it through and do it right, and take the time to take a long-term approach to it.
Thank you once again, Naren, and thank you to all our viewers, and hope you have a very good day, and goodbye.
Thank you very much, Tirani, and thank you, everyone. Bye for now.